What's going on, everyone? I'm Cosmo. Welcome back to Scrap Mechanic, doing more piston engine things today. And I wanted to investigate a comment that I got that said that locking your crank properly will actually yield, a higher torque output. So I wanted to test that theory, and basically we're going to run some tests on this dyno. We're going to run this engine without any sort of, crank lock, I guess we can call it. This is just an engine that I modified from the last video. It doesn't have any sort of like variable, piston adjustments or anything. So it's, it's nice and solid. It works. Everything is good, but this version doesn't have any crank locks. Now, I suppose I should talk about what a crank lock is. Why do we need it? Basically, scrap mechanic physics have this funny way of stretching bearings. And let's be honest here, the majority of you already know this. This is just, in case somebody doesn't have any clue what I'm talking about. So we need some kind of contraption, some kind of addition to make sure that this doesn't happen. This shift between bearings does not happen. So you take a bearing, and on the driving side, as I call it, you basically just build a hook like this, like so. And now, even though these things aren't attached, what's going to happen is when this rotates, it's going to press up against the the adjacent block on the bearing and hopefully keep it a little bit more rigid, a little bit more stable. So if we actually drop this down, I don't know if we're going to see any sort of, crazy difference here, but we wouldn't be doing this if crank locks did nothing at all. So just trust me, bro. So we're going to test this right now, and then we're going to start adding crank locks and see if more crank locks can actually yield higher torque numbers. I'm really curious to see if we see any sort of differences. So let's get right into it. Let's get this thing started. Perfect. Let's start the engine up. All right, so this is the stock form, no crank lock whatsoever. Let's see how much torque we can produce. And I'm gonna look for the first stall as well, like the first sort of like hiccup, and then we're also going to see when it's actually kind of giving up and stalling out. I guess its final stall torque. Oh, that was the first hiccup at like 3,800. I gotta write these down. It's still going. It's definitely having a hard time now. 4,500 max power, 37 horsepower. This is actually getting really close to Khan's engine that he built in our last video in terms of torque numbers. So I could have been close. Okay, so the engine's pretty much stalled out. 48.75. Nope. Okay, it's still going. 49, 53, 68, and it's still slowly turning over. Okay, you know what? I think I'm going to redo this test, guys. I'm going to add one condition to it, and it's that this thing has to stay above 10 RPM. That's basically the condition that we're going to stick to. This is, it seems to be overpowering itself, kind of indefinitely right now, and the torque value keeps going up. But I can't really call this engine running anymore, like it's really not running. So, and wow, we're almost at 6,000. That's insane. Just for fun, let's see if this can get more than Khan's 6,000 in the last video he and I did together. Unbelievable. This stupid thing is going to get 6,000. I know it will. Wow. This last stroke. There we go. 6,015. That's nutty. Okay, we're gonna reset this. Let's run the engine. So we're actually running at 100 RPM. Wow. Okay. We're gonna stop it, or I guess we're gonna write down the reading when it gets below 10 RPM. I think that's a reasonable condition to set, so that we can get results in a timely manner, and also have an engine that's still technically running and not just like stalling out, right? So let's go. Let's do this. We're still gonna look out for the that first hiccup that we saw at 3,800 last time. Looking good so far. Oh, there's the first hiccup, 3790. I'm gonna write that down. 3790 was the first hiccup. Still technically going. 47, 42, 38 RPM. We're going down. Oh, we went down. 4,600. Are we counting that? Is that how we're gonna do this? I mean, it's technically not really rotating anymore, I think 4,600 is where I'm gonna call it. Look at this graph. This looks silly. This jump here is crazy. I'm gonna call this basically 4600 because that's when it started falling below 10 average RPM. I would say this is stalled out. All right, let's stop this and let's add our first level of crank locks.
But wait! There's more!
Before I do that though, I actually ran this test 2 more times because I realized the first time this wasn't welded down, but tests 2 and 3 actually yielded the exact same result, well, very similar results. The first stall blips on the second and third tests were at 3720, what is this, foot-pounds of torque? Newton meters. And on the third one, it was 3785 compared to the 3790 on the first one. And the stall torque on the second and third were 4500 and 4568 compared to the 4600 on the first one. So all very similar numbers there, and I think we can average those out later on to compare it to the other configurations. Now let's build some crank locks. All right, here we go. I got some crank locks. Let's strap this thing to the ground. And let's see if we get more torque out of this beast. I'm curious. All right, let's start her up. Perfect. I think that's locking the crank. I'm pretty sure it is. I guess we'll find out the hard way soon enough. But let's give it a go. Still 100 RPM. Good to know. All right, let's keep an eye out on the torque here. Looking for that first torque blip as well, you know. Oh, first blip at like 3890, I think. What's our below 10 RPM torque here? Okay, well, oh, there we go. Around 4800, 4850, I think. That is quite interesting. Okay, let's stop this thing. Perfect. Let's stop this whole thing. I'm going to run it 2 more times, guys. Get you those numbers. And then we're going to reinforce this even more and see if, see if that helps even more. I'm curious. Okay, I'm going to run this 2 more times. Wow, okay, so for some reason it's still going and it hasn't dropped below 10 RPM. This is insane. Okay, now it's at 10. I still haven't seen a number lower than 10. Okay, there we go. 56, 57. Wow. Okay, I'm gonna run that again because that could be a fluke, but that's insane. So far, we're definitely seeing better results with the crank lock though. All right, test number 3. There's our first blip at around 3760. Our average RPM has yet to fall below 10. It has to have done it there, right? No, really? Okay, there we go, 5743. I suppose I should be counting it maybe against the current speed. Yeah, see, the problem with running at the current speed is that sometimes it randomly falls to 1. So that's not really a good measure, I don't think. Wow, okay, there we go. 55 something, I think. Wow, okay, so I ran this 4 times, and 3 out of the 4 times, it got way higher torque numbers than the first time without any of the crank locks. So, keeping that in mind, and I'm gonna average out all the numbers later and put it up on the screen, but for now, let's actually add more crank locks and see if that puts out even more torque. Well, this isn't gonna work because I don't have long enough crank lobes. I need longer crank lobes. Oh, jeez. I can't believe those first tests are scrapped. Okay, I got longer crank lobes now, and I have double the crank locks, and it actually works. So unless I was doing something else that was silly before, I think this was my issue. I just didn't have long enough crank lobes. I mean, now they're very long, but whatever, you know, I just had to make sure that I didn't have any sort of clearance problems again. But now the issue is that I need to run those first 2 tests again. So I'm going to speedrun them for you guys. So for the first test with no crank locks, this thing's first stall blip was at 4,200 Newton meters, and its torque as soon as it dropped below 10 RPM was 5,371 Newton meters. And that is an average of 3 runs, guys. So now let's add the locks again, the first set of them, and try again. With 1 set of crank locks, the first stall blip was at 4,500 Newton meters, and the stall torque below 10 RPM was 5,575, which is definitely more than 5,371 from the first run. Now, guys, we can finally add another set of locks like I initially intended to, but couldn't because of my design flaws. But now we can do it, and now we can see if more locks makes even more of a difference. Let's do this. There we go, got a second set of locks. Perfect. Let's weld this thing up and start up another test. I'm getting kind of nervous. I don't know if this is going to work or not. I don't know if I'm doing everything correctly either because I don't know everything about piston engines. So maybe I'm overlooking something, but that looks pretty solid. Let's give this thing a go. Let's also notice the fact that we're going about 40 RPM less than the other engine that I had initially at the beginning of this experiment. Let's see how this thing does. I'm looking for the first major stall blip, which happened at 4,200 Newton meters and 4,500 Newton meters on average on the first two tests. So let's see what happens here. It does have a bit of like an oscillation. Oh, there it is. 4,400 again. Interesting. Okay, and now let's watch for that average speed falling below 10. Oh man, we haven't fallen below 10 RPM yet. 10 average RPM. Oh, there it was. There it was. That was 5630, I think. All right, let me run 2 more tests and then we can average it out. But this is crazy, man. It's just going. Another 4,600 for the blip. And let's watch this number here. Ooh, 53. I don't like that. Okay, 58, 55, 58, 54. For the second test, it was lower. It was basically what we had during the last configuration, but 58, 54 is what I managed to get up to, until I saw less than 10 RPM on the board there. So definitely an improvement, guys. Let's keep going. More crank locks. Perfect. I got a second set of those babies. Let's turn this thing on. It still runs, still at 60 RPM, which is good to see. So we're not losing any RPM to having more, I guess, rotating mass on the crank. But let's give this a go. Let's start. I'm curious to see how 3 locks on the crank actually affect this engine. Let's look for that first major blip. And then we're gonna look for below 10 RPM what the torque is. Because I feel like these things could go for quite some time. And I'm probably going to do a comparison, say like 1 lock versus 4 locks. And see which one can reach the higher max torque. Like max. Oh, I missed a stall RPM, didn't I? Dang, I was talking. I was too excited. We're just gonna restart that. Looking for the blip. Just looking for the blip. Show me the blip. This thing is going crazy, guys. We haven't even had a stall blip yet. What? I mean, maybe that? 6,000? The first stall blip was at 6,000? Oh my god. Oh, I think it's safe to say that the crank... Oh, but we locked out sooner. That was like 64, 6390 or something like that. Wow. Okay, let's run 2 more tests. This is getting spicy. Did I have it showing the max torque there? I don't remember. Maybe I was showing the average torque. Still looking good so far though. Still running strong. No hiccups this time around either. Still at 57 average speed, RPM rather. Sorry if I say the wrong units when I'm excited sometimes. I'm just, I just get excited. My brain breaks. Wow, still no hiccups. Oh, okay, there's the first hiccup, 57. All right, and now we're waiting for it to fall below 10. And probably gonna happen, yes, 6183. All right, 6183 is what we're going with for this one. Wow, that is definitely higher though, guys. That is most definitely higher. Okay, let's restart this. Let's go again. 1 more test, and then we're gonna add another final set of locks and see how much torque we can actually achieve. Apparently, the more locks, the better, I think. That's kind of what the data is telling us so far. This is cool. Okay, we gotta set this to max. There we go, and max. I am impressed. I could have beaten Khan, man. I just needed more locks. I just needed more crank locks. Oh no. Okay, here we go. 5,000 Newton meters. And our first blip should be coming any moment now. There it is, 5,800, 5,825 or something like that. And now we're waiting for it to fall below average 10 RPM. Wow, still going. Oh my gosh. Still going. Oh, there it is, 6798. Wow. That is amazing, guys. Well, there's only one thing left to do, and that is add another final set of locks and just see exactly what this is capable of. So let's do that. Now, this is going to be a little bit interesting because the lock on this one actually has to be part of the crank lobe, but that's okay. We'll make it work. Alrighty, this is theoretically the strongest that I can make the crank. I mean, I could probably connect it up here between this bearing and this one right here, and you know, have some locks there, but this still proves what we're trying to kind of accomplish here, you know, and we're trying to figure out if more locks actually makes a bigger difference. So let's see if this even works. It looks like it still works just fine, so let's get up onto here, and let's see what kind of numbers we get with all 4 crank locks. I am really curious for this. Oh man, I'm excited to see what the numbers are. Oh, what? That was so weird. What is going on? You know what? I'm gonna restart the world. Seems to be struggling for some reason. Does it not seem like that? Alright, we're still getting around 60 RPM. Let's start this test up and see what sort of results we get. Wow, we're already getting stalling at... What the frick is going on, man? Did I unpaint something? Or did I paint something that shouldn't be painted? Like, what's going on? Doesn't seem to like the 4 crank locks for some reason, guys. Let me know in the comments down below what you think it could be, because that's just... That's super funky, dude. It's still going, it's just like, it's acting extremely weird. We're almost at 7,000 Newton meters as well. This is just nutty. I don't think I can do a regular test on this one, guys. I think we proved that having more locks is in fact better for torque, but what's going on here? What the heck is going on here? Somebody explain. This is ridiculous. But I guess let's, the only thing we can do is let this thing just run until it can't run anymore, period, and see what kind of torque we get. And then we can run the second stage with only 1 set of locks and see what that max torque is. Wow, max torque so far is 8,500 almost. Oh, it's stalled out. It's fully stalled out. What do we get? 8,899. Okay, max torque 8,899. Okay, let's do the same thing, but with only 3 sets of locks. 7,819 Newton meters is the stall torque for that configuration. Man, these are taking a while to hit max torque. But one thing that I'm noticing that's weird is that with the 2 locks, it's actually already past the torque that the one with the 3 locks was getting, and I'm almost wondering if the flex in the whole system is kind of helping things rotate over. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it's almost acting like a torsional spring, you know? Okay, is that it? Is it finally locked? Yeah, because you can see that they're like twisting around each other and then releasing all that energy, like right now, like it's unwinding itself. You see that? Don't know if my scientific process has officially become flawed or not, but this is the results are kind of spicy at the moment. 8909. This thing has officially beaten the 4 crank lock setup. What is going on here? How is this thing going? The locks were clearly helping, but for some reason, for the max stall torque, it's acting kind of weird. But let's start this up and let's see what happens here. I can't believe the configuration with the 2 crank locks wasn't stopping. It just kept going, man. Unstoppable. Apparently 2 crank locks is the goated setup. You never know, maybe this one will keep going forever as well. I have no clue how the person in the comments got so much torque out of Khan's engine, or I guess a copy of Khan's engine. I think they said they got 26,000 Newton meters, and even if it was in Newton meters, even if it was foot-pounds, it's still insane, dude. That's crazy. How you doing here, buddy? Are you gonna stall out anytime soon? Come on, you're ruining my data here. I don't know, man. This one is also just going. There's gotta be some weird, just like physics stuff going on with the extra jittering right here that allows it to like progress forward in the cycle, and then everything resets. I don't know. I definitely think the crank locks make this thing run a lot smoother, but yeah, see, like all that jittering is just insane. Wow. The version with all the crank locks definitely felt like it was less glitchy. It definitely felt like it was keeping those bearings under control. I feel like this thing is going to keep going as well, guys. Let's just quickly reset it. Let's get rid of the last crank locks, and let's just, you know, for the sake of completing the test, we will see how that runs. But I think we can pretty much safely assume that it's going to keep going due to this weird physics jittering that we're getting. Oh boy. Oh my gosh. I think it might be time for a quick reset. Alright, no crank clocks. Please don't keep spinning forever, but you probably will because of all this jank that's happening over here. They definitely run worse without the crank clocks. Guaranteed. This is not good. This is not good. Still going though. Yeah, it's got this weird thing where the first piston moves slowly and then the rest like catch up in an unwinding manner, and yeah, everything's fine. Everything's great. This is normal. Well, it is yet again about to pass the ultimate stall torque of the 3 crank lock system. I don't know what to tell you guys. I think all this glitching that we're seeing right here is actually kind of aiding this thing and turning over. I think the crank locks do keep it a lot more stable, a lot more secure, a lot more kind of like rigid is the word that I'm looking for, I think. And we obviously have data to back up the fact that at a certain average RPM, the torque is indeed higher with more crank locks. Unfortunately, we couldn't get that data for the 4 crank lock system, but that's okay because we have 4 other data points, and this was cool. This was cool figuring out that, you know, crank locks do in fact have such an effect on piston engines in Scrap Mechanic. So thank you to the person who commented that. This was a really fun experiment. Definitely teach me more things, guys, because I'm excited to learn more about piston engines in Scrap Mechanic and just, you know, the game physics in general. But I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments down below, and I will see you guys next time. Bye! Let's turn this thing off before something blows up.